During the Second World War, armies marched, camped and fought in places where fuel was either rationed to the last drop or impossible to access. Soldiers in the Ardennes, the Caucasus, North Africa and the Italian mountains often went cold, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked fire. A flame could give away a position. Fuel was almost always prioritized for vehicles, and in many forward posts the only heat available came from body warmth alone. Yet, hidden in field manuals and quietly passed between veterans, there was a heat pan trick that didn't require fuel at all. For the next minute, stay with me, because this method helped infantry stay warm, dry boots, heat rations, and prevent frostbite without breaking stealth. It wasn't high-tech, and it wasn't improvised out of desperation. It was a small metal pan setup that used physics so effectively that modern survival shelters still echo its design. The heat pan trick relied on a simple principle. Certain materials hold heat far longer than others. It's really quite straightforward, but remarkably effective. German Gebirgsjäger in the Alps, Finnish ski troops and British commandos all use this method in different forms. Each group adapted it to their own unique environments and needs. The core idea was to heat a metal pan or plate using minimal flame, often just embers from a small twig fire or a nearly invisible solid fuel tablet, and then bury or enclose that pan under a layer of rocks, soil or fabric. This simple approach allowed soldiers to stay warm or heat food without revealing their position, which could be, well, absolutely crucial in hostile territory. Once heated, the pan acted like a radiator. At a time when fires were dangerous and fuel was restricted, the ability to capture and slowly release heat was, well, absolutely invaluable. Soldiers realized that even if the fire died within minutes, the heated metal continued radiating warmth into enclosed spaces, especially dugouts, stone huts, or lean-to shelters. This heat source didn't smoke, didn't glow visibly, and didn't require tending. It became really a quiet lifeline for troops who couldn't risk revealing their position. The reason this method worked so well is that metal retains heat more efficiently than soil or wood. Once heated, cast iron steel or even thick aluminum radiates warmth gradually. Reports from the Eastern Front describe Soviet and German troops forming what they called heat nests. These were small chambers in the wall of a trench or bunker where they would slide in a warm pan, then seal the opening with cloth or wood. The radiant heat would, warm their hands and feet without creating any smoke or light. In some cases, just a single heated pan actually kept a tiny shelter livable for hours. This made the method far superior to any open flame. Fire, well, it flickered and burned out fast. But a heat pan, it glowed internally and quietly, releasing steady warmth long after the flame had vanished. The practical uses were honestly endless. Boots soaked from snow or marsh mud were placed next to the buried heat pan to dry slowly. Rifle bolts and oil froze in many winter campaigns, so soldiers would warm the metal parts near the radiator pan to keep their weapons, operational. Rations, especially those hard biscuits and fat-rich field meals, would soften up when stored near the heat source, making them, well, actually edible in those freezing conditions. Troops in Italy and the Balkans, for example, even place cans of stew or coffee right on top of the warmed pan to bring them up to a tolerable temperature, without burning anything or producing steam. And in areas where frostbite was a constant threat, soldiers would warm their hands around the insulated chamber even in complete darkness. This way they could stay stealthy, but more importantly, stay alive. What made this technique truly invaluable is that it never needed more than just a handful of embers to recharge. Even in wet forests or those biting alpine winds, a soldier could heat the pan for a couple of minutes, conceal it, and enjoy warmth for much longer than any typical microfire could provide. For a modern survivalist or off-grid builder, the method is not only useful, it can be life-saving. To apply it, you need a metal pan, plate, skillet, or even a steel pot lid. Heat it over a tiny flame, a candle stub, an alcohol burner, or a small wood ember. The key is not the size of the flame, but the ability to heat the metal until it retains thermal mass. Once heated, bury the pan partially in sand, dirt, or small stones to keep it from losing heat too rapidly. If indoors, place it inside a brick or stone alcove or under a raised platform bed. The metal will radiate warmth into the immediate space. For drying gear, place gloves, socks or boots near the pan, but not touching it directly to avoid scorching. A simple step-by-step adaptation works well in tents or small bush shelters. Heat the pan, slide it into a fire-safe pit or between stones, then drape fabric or a blanket above it to trap the rising warmth. This creates a micro-radiator that performs far better than piling blankets alone. It also conserves fuel, something crucial in backcountry survival where firewood may be soaked or limited. This method also works for heating food quietly. Warm the pan, set your sealed rations on top, and let the residual heat do the work. No flame, no smoke, no giveaway glow. The heat pan trick reflects a level of field ingenuity that rarely gets spotlighted. It wasn't glamorous like tanks, nor dramatic like winter offensives, but it kept soldiers alive and functional. Many men in winter campaigns owe the preservation of their fingers, rations, and equipment to this simple method. And it highlights an important truth about wartime adaptation. Survival often depended less on weaponry and more on clever use of basic materials. If you enjoy unearthing the forgotten fieldcraft that shaped history's toughest moments, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning, share this video with fellow enthusiasts, and help keep these powerful skills alive for future generations.